This is a main share meeting, and today it is with great pleasure and much gratitude that we welcome ARISA B from Boston, who's come to share for about 40 minutes, after which we'll open up the room for general sharing, or if you'd like to ask a question. ARISA, thank you so much for being with us today, and the floor is yours.
Thank you so much, Sky. Good afternoon, good morning, wherever you are. My name is ARISA. I'm most definitely an alcoholic. The date of my last drink was October the 13th of 1993, and for that I am eternally grateful. My home group is the Beacon Group in Boston, Massachusetts. We meet on Monday nights and Wednesday nights in person. We'd love to have you. We also have a noon meeting 5 days a week online, and our Wednesday meeting is also streamed, so come join us. It is great to be back with you, and I thank you for the opportunity to share that wonderful writing by Bill. I also took some time this morning and read Bill's Christmas message from 1944, because when I read these sort of things, it fills me with gratitude. The idea of a spiritual awakening. For those of you who are new, when I walked in the door, the last thing in the world I wanted was a spiritual awakening. All I wanted was just to stay sober. And you guys kept talking about all this other stuff like inventory and making amends and all that, changing me sort of stuff. And I'm like, wait, all I really want to do is stop drinking. I'm okay with the chaos. I really don't mind the fact that, I'm okay with feeling like the world and its people were wrong and keeping their inventory. And I didn't want to stop being angry, and I didn't want all those sort of things. I mean, when I think about the term spiritual awakening, I feel like I had the kind of spiritual awakening that my 17-year-old sometimes has in the morning, where the alarm clock goes off and roll over and, just shut the darn thing off, or better yet, throw it out the window, right? I mean, some of us wake up a little more slowly than others. And I was one of those who woke up very, very slowly. And I don't know that I necessarily appreciated that there was so much more to Alcoholics Anonymous. And the truth is that for a girl like me, see, the woman who walked in the rooms, and she really was a girl at the time, of Alcoholics Anonymous, she had to drink. There was no getting around that. I know that a lot of people in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous will say things like, God will never give you more than you can handle. And it's just not my experience. My experience was that breathing for 24 hours was more than this girl could handle without some sort of liquid assistance. You know what I'm saying? I mean, my skin hurt to have on. I didn't want to be in this world. I didn't want to be me. And so I was always looking for something to take the me off of me. And when I walked into the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, when you started talking to me about not drinking, what you're really telling me is, why don't you just die? Because I don't know how to do that. You're taking away the only thing that ever worked for me, right? And this idea of looking at somebody like me, like 30 years of sobriety, they've got to be lying. Right? There's just no way. Because how do you live your life like that? Because for me, drinking is a spiritual experience, right? I have to stay real clear on what alcoholism is. See, I drink for effect, right? I drink because I get those 9-step promises. I get a new freedom and a new happiness if I drink enough. I don't regret the past nor wish to shut the door on it if I drink enough. I comprehend the word serenity when I drink enough. And I definitely know how my experience can benefit everybody when I drink enough. I mean, my whole attitude and outlook upon life is what changes, and that's why I drink. And so when I walked in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous and you guys started talking to me about sobriety, meaning not drinking, I didn't know how I was going to possibly do that. And yet at the same time, it's the only thing that I wanted. I thought that if I could stop getting too drunk, that my problems were going to go away. I thought that it was all about the alcohol. I didn't understand that there was a whole other thing going on, that alcoholism centered in my mind and not in my body. I didn't understand. See, I understood, you guys talked to me a lot in the beginning about the progression of the disease of alcoholism. But one of the things we don't talk a whole lot about in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous, and why I love this reading, is because of the progression of sobriety. See, I have been blessed beyond measure to experience the progression of sobriety, one day at a time, that I have been given the opportunity to live a life I didn't even know could exist. Right? I'm not the girl who I mean, if things weren't going my way, I didn't know how to be happy. And in Alcoholics Anonymous, you guys taught me, like, listen, when life's not going your way, we got a perfect solution. Absolutely, it works every single time. And I'm going to let you in on the secret. Try not having a way. Right? That's what a third step really looks like. You know, when I think I know how it's supposed to look, I end up miserable. The truth is, following God's path is actually really, really easy. You know what's hard? Not listening to the redhead. This girl, like, the voice in my head is so loud. How do you quiet this thing? Right? That's what this is all about. You know, I had all these plans, if you're new to AA, I mean, I'm sure you got a plan. I had a plan. I've never met a newcomer without a plan. Tell us your plan. You know, tell us your plan. You know, it's time to let go of the plans. You know, I mean, I don't know what else to tell you. It's just this thing. You know, my plans. My trying to run my life was. Most people don't have linoleum anymore, but when I was growing up, we had this kitchen floor linoleum, right? And we had this big black lab, and he'd be trying to get up, and he'd be running, and he's kind of like doing this in, you know, like, just, you can't get anywhere. You can't get any traction. That was what my life was like, a whole lot of energy and not a lot of movement. It's kind of like a treadmill, you know, that's what it looked like in my life. No matter, I could exert enormous amounts of energy, and I went nowhere. Because the one thing I was not willing to do was I was never willing to face and rectify my errors. And see, if I'm not willing to do that, then God can't convert them into assets. There's this, you know, amazing thing in Alcoholics Anonymous where we do this thing I like to call spiritual alchemy. You know, the alchemists were trying to take a negative and turn it into a positive, right? They were trying to turn lead into gold. And you taught me how to do that right here in the rooms of AA, that no matter what life brings to me, I can find a way to turn it into a blessing if I'm following and holding God's hand. That's the main thing AA taught me. That's what the progression of sobriety is all about. But I had to get a different God. I had to get a different understanding about God. You know, there's this airline in the United States called Southwest Airlines, and they're kind of funny. They're very loose and hip and whatever. And this stewardess comes on once, we're about to take the flight, right? And she invites everyone, as I always do, to sit back, relax, and enjoy your flight. And then she goes, or sit up, be tense, and be miserable. It's totally up to you, right? That's AA. That's what you guys have taught me. Like, it's not my problem. It's my problem with my problem. How do I get okay with whatever? Somebody just sent me a whole bunch of t-shirts. I always joke that whatever is the most spiritual term I know. And the front of the t-shirts say whatever. And on the back, it says, there's an asterisk and it says, see Appendix 2. If you don't get it, see Appendix 2. But anyway, whatever, like, that's the deal. How do I welcome whatever's coming and say yes to it? What if I get to cease fighting anything and anyone? What if my higher power could be grace over drama, right? What if I take the me out of my life and let the we run it? You know, what if there really is a solution to all of my problems? What if my God could be the God of lemonade, that when life gives me lemons, my job is to squeeze those puppies and to absolutely know that God's got enough sugar to make anything sweet? What if that could be the deal just for today? And that's been my path here. So the last 30 years have not been easy. They have not been, you know, let's walk into this. No, that's not my story. My story is one of great drama, great turmoil, great craziness. I mean, you know, and the stories of before my getting sober, they were bad. They were ugly. There was abuse. There was violence. I was abducted. I mean, there were all kinds of horrible things that happened to me. But what happened after I got sober, there's just as much crazy, because that's life. One of the most misquoted things in Alcoholics Anonymous is we get up to the podium and we say, I'm going to tell you what it was like, what happened, and what it's like now. But that's not what it says. It actually says in how it works, what we were like, what happened, and what we are like now. See, I have changed. I have had a spiritual awakening. No matter how many times I've hit that alarm clock, I have stayed on this path. And that's the really cool thing. Years ago, I read this wonderful quote that has stuck with me forever and ever. And I hope it never leaves. And I hope I can put it in your head and it'll never leave you. And that is that a spiritual person makes about 600 mistakes in a day. We're talking like the Dalai Lama, guys, but we take our nightly inventory and we're like, did I make any? 600. Now let's get clear on what is a mistake. A mistake is something that I'm going out and I think this is the right thing to do. And then in retrospect, I'm like, what was I thinking? That did not work out well, right? And if the Dalai Lama is making 600 mistakes in a day, can I get humble enough to just be human? Because that's the only thing that my higher power ever asks of me. Like I said, following God's path is actually easy. I'm a big believer that if you're going to do God's will, you better be having a whole lot of fun. In the family afterwards, it says we insist on enjoying our life. No matter what is going on, we've got to enjoy our life. I'm going through a whole lot of physical stuff right now. And I have been, for years, I've got a lot of physical problems. And you know what? I have no opinion on that. That's an outside issue. It does not matter what my body is doing. It matters what my spirit is doing. Because I can find a reason to be unhappy. It's really easy for this redhead, or I can learn to have what I like to call a spiritual temper tantrum, because I am a temper tantrum girl. Make no mistake. If you bring any 2-year-old or 3-year-old out, I will take them down. When I don't want to have to, I do not. I mean, that's just the way it is. I mean, and today I have learned that every character defect is simply a character asset out of proportion. I just need to learn how to do these same things in a godly way. Because God gave me all of my emotions and therefore they're good. They're here to help me, not to hurt me. So plant your foot, stamp your foot, and make sure that you're going to insist on enjoying your life today. When I make my plans in the mornings, you see, you can't go where you don't aim, right? If I was going to hop on a ship in London and I wanted to get to Boston, right, we would set course. And if the ship's captain didn't check course all along the way, are we on course? Are we on course? If we got 1 degree off course, we would not end up in Boston. We would end up, who knows, New York or, who knows. But that's so I have to set my aim in the morning. This is where I'm going. I'm going towards God's will. I'm going towards loving you. I'm going towards letting go of me and trying to be that channel of God. That's where I want to be. I want to have my hand in God's all day long. That's what we're doing. That's what we're doing. And if I'm not checking in with God all through the day, I will be off course. It's amazing how quickly my will starts sounding like God's will. It's really amazing. Of course, that's the right thing for me to do because it sounds like the right thing for me to do. I'm not stopping and checking in. It's real easy for me to go over there. And why are you upset with me when I've suddenly stepped all over you? You see, I can be so self-centered that I can roll right over you. I don't even notice. Just blinders can be on. My intentions are always good. I have yet to meet somebody really who has just bad intentions, who wakes up in the morning and says, I can't wait to take a course of action to, really upset Young today, or whoever, right? I got the opportunity yesterday. I was a disturbance for Young yesterday, for which I've already made amends. Okay. But the poor dear didn't know. I turned my phone entirely off because it's the holiday seasons and I got kids home. And so I'm not here. And I got people calling and texting and WhatsApping and Facebooking. And everyone's like, you gonna be there tomorrow? And, I just have the phone off. That's it. Right. And I can be, I open up, I'm like, wow. It could have been really easy for me to go get offended. Wow, how could you possibly, of course I'm going to be, don't you know who? No. How about I assume love? He wants to make sure you guys get the best meeting that you possibly can get. And do you know how many people showed up for him yesterday to make sure that this meeting was taken care of? What a beautiful thing. I mean, I heard from all kinds of my friends who, like everyone's like, and he was telling me, one of them was like, don't worry, she's going to be there. And it's right. It's on my calendar. It's going to be there. But you know what? I can still appreciate it. And that's the attitude adjustment. You see, that's what the old timers in AA, my very first home group, taught me, that the other meaning of AA is attitude adjustment. It's not my problem. It's my problem with my problem. You see, I have a way, my first inventory, my sponsor helped me to understand. See, I have a way of assuming malice. I mean, I'm a noticer. Anybody else here a noticer? I'm a noticer, but I have a tendency just to notice what you do wrong. I'm not real good at noticing what you do right. That comes later for me in the 10th step. I use that same skill in the 10th step to start noticing God's fingerprints on my life, start noticing the love that you're showing, start noticing the good. But in the beginning, I'm a noticer, and I always seem to know, somehow deep in my core that you're not, your intentions aren't good. They never, you never notice, like they're never trying to, make sure that everything's going well. I have a tendency to assume malice on you, but my intentions are always great. How is that possible? The whole world has bad intentions except me, right? And my sponsor helped me to understand that my job is to cross the courtroom and to stop being the lawyer for the prosecution and start being the lawyer for the defense. What are they doing right? What are they right about? What if this really is their 100%? What if everything they're doing is done from a place of love? What if that was the deal? How do I roll with that idea today? And how do I stop assuming that you see, you're supposed to always assume that I meant well, right? Instead, I'm going to hold myself accountable by the results of my actions. If they didn't come out well, then I want to clean that up. And that's what I got to do. I get to circle back with all of these people, all of these messages, and say, you know what? I feel terribly that, you weren't able to reach me, right? I forgot that you guys asked me to send a reading in. That's the truth, because not very many meetings ask that. And so, it's on my calendar, but I hadn't sent it. That's what I did wrong. And, I can see how that would be worrisome. I can see how, I could have created a bit of a disturbance. I don't want to do that to anybody. Right? Can I make sure that instead I'm looking for all of the things that you're doing right today? And when I do that, my life gets better, because belief in God is not enough. It's about conscious contact. I have to put love actively, like I have to wear those rose-colored glasses so that I see you through a different lens, just like on stage. They can if they put in a green lens, everybody looks a little sick, right? If they put in a pink one, everybody looks a little happier and warmer and more love. I literally in early sobriety bought a pair of glasses that looked like this, and they had red lenses so that I saw you with that pink glow, because I have a way of just assuming it can't be good. And I want to remember each and every day that this is about character building. It's not about comfort. See, I drank for comfort. I was always like, I can't take any pain. I have a very low threshold for emotional pain. That my need to be right is so strong. And what I've learned today is that my state of consciousness is what's going to decide what this moment looks like. My state of consciousness. So because what do we recover from? We recover from a seemingly hopeless state of mind and body. And when I'm expecting bad things, I get restless, irritable, and discontented. And the only thing that treats that restless, irritable, and discontented that I've found in my life are one of two things: a whole lot of booze or a whole lot of God. And I didn't want that whole lot of God thing, but it's been my path, the one that I've chosen, one day at a time. See, I can't choose not to drink, but I can choose to put myself in the path of grace. I can choose to say whatever, willing to go to any lengths. I do a big book study on Saturday mornings, and we were talking about hope yesterday. And the word hope is something I think a lot of us don't really use properly, right? The word hope basically means is to expect good things. To expect. And there are a whole lot of people in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous that say, you know, expectations are premeditated resentments. That's not in my big book. It may be in yours, but it's not in my big book. My big book tells me to expect miracles. It tells me to expect in great measure. It tells me to hope, that we are here to give hope to the hopeless, right? That the whole point of Alcoholics Anonymous is that we have a way out upon which we can absolutely agree. And I can talk to you about the hopeless qualities of alcoholism because I have escaped something that was supposed to not be able to be escaped. My life today truly is a miracle. And, you know, you walk in the rooms of Alcoholics Anonymous and if you're like me, like you start hearing about these, oh, it's a miracle, you're a miracle. I'm like, oh, just little miracles. And it's just enough to make me throw up. I mean, that's the way I was. I'm like, enough with your miracles, right? But I had to live it for a little while for me to really understand, to practice that gratitude. I don't know about you, but I don't do the attitude of gratitude real well. It's not my forte. I have a brain that's like Velcro for negativity. And it's like Teflon for good stuff. You know, you can throw as much love and good things at me as you want. They just slide right off. They just slide right up. But one little person doesn't say hello to me and I will think about that forever. I mean, I love me a good resentment. There is nothing I like better than to sit back in my favorite chair and, you know, click on the video screen and I watch the hit parade of the worst stuff that's ever happened to me. And I can enjoy that like my husband enjoys a good steak, you know, and that's how I'm wired. And I got to take that same attitude, that same mind and turn it instead to the good, because that's what real meditation is. When Bill wrote the big book, the word meditation meant something much more like contemplation. I have to choose what I'm going to believe in today. I have to choose what is going to be on the agenda today. I have to set that aim and I have to stay there. I'm from Texas. I know a lot of y'all probably never been to Texas, but you've probably seen the stereotypical rodeo, right? And the main event at the rodeo is always that old boy who's getting on the bronco, which means the wild horse, right? And his job, you know, the reason that that is an event is because once upon a time, if you wanted a horse, you had to go catch yourself one, right? And that old boy's job would be to throw a saddle on that horse and hold on for dear life. And if he got bucked off, you know what he did? Jumps back on the horse. And when he gets bucked off, you know what he does? He jumps back on the horse. And when he gets bucked off again, yep, you got it. He jumps back on the horse. And what eventually happens is that that horse is willing to let you ride it. And it becomes a useful tool. Now, y'all, that's my mind. My mind is the crazy wild animal here. I'm not my mind. When I got here, I thought, well, it's in my head, and so I have to do it. I didn't really understand that pause, when we talk about pause, that's what it is. I get that saddle on the horse and all of a sudden my mind becomes a tool. And I can trust my mental faculties with assurance. After all, God gave me my brain to use. That think sign, it's supposed to be right side up. See, I wouldn't be able to stay sober for 30 years if you kept telling me that, you know, it was all about stinking thinking, because it's not for me anymore, because I've had a spiritual awakening, because I've learned to practice these principles in all of my affairs. That when I do these things, right, the thoughts still pop into my head. I would be lying to you if I told you that I only thought about, you know, unicorns and rainbows. That's not true. My mind still tries to get me to go down the resentment road. But a resentment is simply meditating on a negative. That's all it is. So instead, I get to choose where I'm going, what I'm thinking about. No, this is the agenda today. This is the plan, right? This is the God I choose to believe in. I needed to grow my God. I really, really did. I had to see God through you. And the more I saw that, you know, whenever my third column is getting disturbed, right? If my personal relations, my sex relations, my ambitions, my security, my finances, if they feel hurt or threatened, you will get a reaction out of me. And so I've got to make sure that God is my supply for those things. And when God is my supply for those things, you don't get to make me do anything. I got a crazy family, really, truly, and it's like they wired me. Okay. And I've got all these buttons, and my sister, especially, she knows exactly where they are. She's so good. She can just go up and she'll push those buttons. And I start flailing my arms like some little, doll. And, and my sponsor helped me to understand what we're going to do here through steps 4 through 9 is we're going to change that wiring. Right. And I got to go in and I got to clip those wires. And now when she comes and she presses those buttons, I don't go off and do what she wants me to do because I have the remote control for my life back. You don't get to make me anything. The world and its people are still often quite wrong. And guess what? That's your business. That's your business. The world is full of jerks. They really are. And I don't have to get involved in that. If you are being a jerk, guess what? I still get to be the woman God calls me to be. That's the deal today. I get to be every morning. I got divorced today. I got up this morning and I went straight down on my knees. And I thank God for divorcing me from self-pity, dishonesty, resentment, and fear. Because if I don't get divorced from, I'm married to those things. And have you ever noticed self-pity's first? Wow. And couldn't it at least be something cool like resentment or vengeance? No, self-pity. Self-pity is what I'm married to. And if I don't get divorced from self-pity, I don't get to be married to David today. My life will start to crumble. See, I get to choose my life today, but first and foremost, I have to remember that my mind is going to want to go to those negatives, and I got to put the saddle back on and say, not on my watch. Turn, ask, pause, cease fighting. See, that's the 10th step. 10 and 11 get real screwed up in people's minds sometimes. I think it's real simple. 10 is, are you holding God's hand? 11 is pick it up again. Because whenever I am restless, irritable, and discontented, I am not walking with my higher power in my heart. And if I am not walking with my higher power in my heart, I need to get my higher power back into my heart. 10, 11, 10, 11, 10, 11. And in step 10, it says, how can I best serve thee? Thy will, not mine, be done. I don't know about you, but I've got the kind of brain that there are a lot of things I can do to serve. I can make a really good case for serving, under God's, all kinds of. Well, if I had a better house, I'd be able to serve more people, right? If I had a better job, I'd be able to serve more people. If I had the right whatever, I'd be able to serve more people, right? But how can I best serve thee? And that's what elevates my thinking back into the plane of spirituality, right? It's not my will, but God's here. How do I know? When you get to I don't know, you're finally teachable. Am I willing to listen to you? Am I willing to listen to that still small voice inside of me just for today? Right? Just for today, I'm going to, not have an opinion on any outside issue. And the only thing that is I really need to be asking myself is, where do you want me, God? Where do you want me? Who can I help? Every morning I ask God to, let me be of service and show me who I can help and put more love into my life. And then the phone rings and I don't want to answer. And I forgot, I literally just asked God, that's God calling. When that crazy person starts calling you and like, oh my God, that's God calling. That's God calling me, giving me the opportunity to step up into my life. See, because I don't know about you, but I never wanted to do the things that I don't agree with. And whenever I start thinking I know, my ego is coming right back. It's coming right back. But today, what I know is that you can't take away from my life. You only have the ability to add to it. My life is my supply comes from my higher power, period. It says on page 133, that we are sure God wants us happy, joyous, and free. I don't know about you, but I walked into the doors of Alcoholics Anonymous and I wanted to be happy, joyous, and free. I have yet to meet a newcomer who doesn't want to be happy, joyous, and free. I mean, don't we all want to be happy, joyous, and free? But that's what I want. And the difference is I did not believe that that's what God wanted. And that's the God I've had to feed. That's the God I have to choose. Anything less than that, wrong God. Wrong God. Any God that talks about lack or talks about punishment, wrong God. Wrong God. It's we talk about the how of the program, honest, open, and willing. No. In the appendix 2, it says it in a different order. It's the WHO, willingness, honesty, and open-mindedness. It's the who of the program that creates the ability for me to have this incredible life. right? So when I get to the end of my day, the real question, my nightly review, it's all about, what did my day look like? Of course, right? But was I trying to manipulate it? Was I trying to manipulate God? Or was I expecting love, guidance, and miracles today? Was I expecting love, guidance, and miracles? Can I take this idea of what real hope is? Hope is expecting good things. And can I nurture that into my life each day? And that's how I get to happy, joyous, and free. It is not the conditions of my life that make me happy. The conditions of my life are not what matter to me anymore. Now, I'm not saying that I don't have emotions. I'm not saying that I don't get sad. I'm not saying that it isn't, that it's always easy. But I'm saying that again on page 132, where it says insist, have the spiritual temper tantrum. That's what I've learned, right? That I can practice the good orderly direction, the grace over drama, that I can see the best in you, that I can stay at this place of what real humility really is right-sized. I don't need to be bigger than you. I don't need to be smaller than you. It's not about where I am next to you. I just get to be shoulder to shoulder. Real humility is, getting to be part of a we, that, there's nothing that has to be done anymore. I get to let the plans go and stick in just for today. In this moment, how do I just be the channel? How do I let you see the love? Isn't that really the new freedom and the new happiness? See, that's how I really don't regret the past nor wish to shut the door on it, because everything that has ever happened to me, all those bad things, they aren't just, it really irritated me when I was told, well, someday they're going to help somebody else. You know what? That's just not enough for me. Or better yet, when they said, whatever doesn't kill you, will make you stronger. Thank you. I'm strong enough. But what you've taught me in Alcoholics Anonymous is everything that hasn't killed me can make me happier. That it has the ability to give me that reference of joy in this moment, like a roller coaster. Some people, like, if this is where, 0 is, right? And your roller coaster goes down to -10 and then it goes up to 10, right? And other people, let's say non-alcoholics, maybe their roller coaster starts at 0 and it goes up to 10. But that 10's a great thrill, don't get me wrong. But when you started at -10, when you're at 0, that's a thrill. You see, that attitude of gratitude that I was talking about, that's hard for me to do. You know why? Because I want to just have it. I want to just have it. But what we tell newcomers is what I still need to be doing, and that is to actually practice gratitude. I love to study these things, and the research says that it's impossible to have an attitude of gratitude without actually stopping and practicing it. I like to tell my sponsees what we do is stop, drop, and roll. So when I was a kid, there was a thing about, you roll the fire out by stop, dropping, and roll. So, when my life is on fire, I need to stop, drop, and roll. But what it really is like the dogs. When a dog stops and drops and rolls in the splendor of the grass. See, I need to stop my life and I need to count my blessings. And I need to do this on a regular basis. I got a few sponsees right now who are going through some really, really hard things. And so their assignment is 50 things before noon and 50 things after. And that includes sometimes, one of my sponsors said to me years ago, she's like, when you don't know what to be grateful for, start counting your toes, because there are a lot of people who don't have them. The husband of a good friend of mine, their daughter was learning to drive a few weeks ago, and she accidentally hit the gas instead of the brake. And she pinned her father between the car and the wall of the garage and amputated both his legs. I'm grateful for 10 toes in a very real way. I've got to drop off food for that family last night, and he's on my son's robotics team, and another kid, there are 4 kids on the robotics team, and another kid on the robotics team, his mother went in for her last scan, and it looked like she was cancer-free, and instead what they found out was that it had spread suddenly through her entire body. It's down to her knees, and she's only got a small amount of time back. 2 out of 4 kids. That's real life. And I want to whine about the fact that my body hurts. Give me a break. You see, I got to get my head out of my rear end. And I got to get into this life. I got to count my blessings because there are so many. I had little kids. When my children were born, my son couldn't walk and he couldn't talk. And he was allergic to milk, soy, eggs, wheat, nuts, fish, shellfish, corn, peas, carrots, latex, whatever. And we were at Children's Hospital 5 days a week almost sometimes with different appointments. And I would walk out of there and I go, we don't have problems. We have inconveniences. See, it's not my problem. It's my problem with my problem. I don't want to ever have to go through anything. I want you to supply me with happy, joyous, and free. I want God to give me what I think I deserve. God forbid I'd actually be given what I deserve, because I would be dead in a hole in Texas. The truth is, I don't deserve this incredible life that I have. All I can do is give everything that I have back to in service to my higher power. All I can do is count my blessings every single day, as often as possible. How do I remember to hold God's hand? That's the question. One of my favorite things to do is, look at the verbs in the 10th step and start practicing them. Start with the verb watch, 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 watch. And don't just watch for selfishness, dishonesty, resentment, and fear. Watch for God. Watch for the miracles. Watch for the amazement. Watch for the good. Right. I also tell my sponsees when they're starting down this road, set your, I love the fact that you guys have phone. We had to use sticky pads and things like that. I need touchstones. You know what touchstones are? Is back in the day when we used coins all the time, you put a pebble in your pocket. So when you're paying for something, you touch that pocket, that pebble, and it would remind you about God. You know why church bells ring every hour? To remind you about God. So set your phone to ring every hour and take a knee. Every time my shoes come untied, it's a moment for me to touch a knee to the ground and just be conscious of God. When I drop a pencil, that's another one of mine, or a pen or whatever. Anytime I drop something, that's a moment for me to remember, there's God. There's God. I had a guy who used to stalk me. He drove a yellow VW Bug. And and so one of my very first ones was, instead of getting like, oh my God, there goes the yellow bug, I got to every time, and to this day, every time a yellow VW Bug goes by, I'm like, and there goes God. Reminder, reminder, reminder. There are pink clouds. I hate it when I hear somebody, tell somebody, oh, you're just on a pink cloud, like it's going to go away. Let's get real clear. Pink clouds happen every morning and every night, but the only people that get to experience them are the ones that are willing to inconvenience themselves to experience it. Because staying sober is inconvenient, and staying sober, happy, joyous, and free on this path is super inconvenient. But if you're not willing to be inconvenienced, you're never going to find it, because selfishness and self-centeredness, that's the root of my problem. I must be rid of this selfishness, or it kills me, or it kills me. Einstein said there are only two ways to live. One, as though nothing is a miracle, and the other as though everything is. And just for this day, that's the attitude I'm trying to take. That attitude adjustment. It's not my problem. It's my problem with my problem. God's path really is easy. That beam we talk about? We all got to stay on the beam. And so many of us, we get, and myself included in the beginning, I thought, oh my God, it feels like this balance. I'm going to fall off all the time. I'm going to fall off the beam. Let's be clear. When Bill was growing up, there weren't televisions. He would not have ever seen somebody doing gymnastics on a balance beam. That's not what he's talking about in the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous. That beam, it was a radio beam. It is a homing beacon bringing you in safe to harbor. When those planes were lost in the clouds, what they did was they tuned the frequency in. For those of you who are old enough like me to those old-fashioned radios, you tune the frequency in, get rid of the static. You find the beam and you follow it into safe harbor. See, that's Alcoholics Anonymous. That's God calling me in, putting God's arms around me. It is not about, oops, you missed a spot. It is about, come on, we got you. I walk next to women with bloody knees. All of us fall, all of us fall. But when we are linked arm in arm, we don't fall through the hole. We carry out each other through those hard spots. We show up, and we show up big. That's the Alcoholics Anonymous I was given. And that's the Alcoholics Anonymous I intend to stay a part of, one day at a time. So I really hope that just for this day, you're going to choose to have a beautiful day. So God bless you. Don't make other plans. Have that beautiful day. Thank you so much for my sobriety, and happy holidays to you all.
Thank you so